We're continuing our Godtear tabletop Tactica, drinking deep the salty tears of the gods. And in this vlog, we're going to explore the idea of terrain. Terrain in Godtear and how it shares some similarities to a traditional wargaming system. So we're going to bring those Tactica points in building our checklist. But at the same time, Godtear is Godtear. It's very, very unique, and the terrain setup, the terrain system, has a lot of tactical depth to it. Different than a traditional wargaming system. Okay, you break open the starter sets. Once you get past the amazing detail of the miniatures, the amazing personality, you lay out that board, you look at the amazing artwork evoking this battlefield where mighty champions are going to clash for the tiers. Where's the terrain? Right? This is a skirmish-based game compared it to other skirmish-based games. There's always terrain. You need some place to hide your miniatures. You need some place to gain elevation. You need some place that's going to take longer to move through the terrain. Terrain is an important point because it sets up an ebb and flow of tactics. It might even deny certain areas. You might have a ravine or some sort of terrain that is impassable, that you can't make it past, so you have to go around it. Where's the terrain? What you quickly realize is the boards themselves, they're decoration, and they look fantastic. They really evoke the battlefield you're playing on, but they're inconsequential for the gods and for those who aspire to tabletop immortality. The terrain are the tiers themselves. The terrain are the tiers themselves. Now, what this pulls in is a tactical duality of the tiers occupy a hex. Based on a mission, they may move around, they may grow, they may shrink, they may generate more, they may generate less. You also have some war bands that have the ability to create terrain, if landslide gets destroyed, or move terrain around, based on a special ability. So the god tiers themselves are never fixed. They are changing turn by turn. And they act as terrain in that not all units, most units, right now as of this vlog, really Froglotites are the only ones that can, in terms of followers. They can't move over them. They can't move through them. They are impassable terrain. Think of them as, tier 3 from a classic wargaming system extending to infinity and beyond. You can't move on top of them. They'll just disintegrate you with their power of the gods and their salty tears. So what we have is the fact that you need to look and not only see all the terrain tactics that you would normally pull in from a wargaming system as the god tiers themselves, but understand they are completely mutable. They are completely changeable, and you need to take that into account. Most wargaming systems, and this is what's unique about Godtear, and it's worth focusing on just a couple of games back and forth, playing just tier manipulation, looking and seeing how do we build, where do we go, what do we do. Most wargaming systems, the terrain is fixed. It may give you an advantage of cover, it may give you an advantage of elevation, you may not be able to move through it, but it's there for the entire game. We see this with Warhammer 40,000. Then you have terrain, another system that I enjoy playing, just pulling in some examples. Battletech, you can play with the rules. It's encouraged in the Total Warfare that terrain can be destroyed. Terrain can be destroyed. So if I have a building, it's got a number of structure points, I hit it up with some autocannons, it turns into rubble, you remove it off the table, and now it's rubble terrain. You can't really move terrain or change terrain in Battletech. I mean, it can pick up a tree and smash a mech with it. But Godtear is very, very unique in that we're pulling in the duality of, yes, this is terrain, blocking movement, blocking the ability for most of the units on the table. But at the same time, it's ever-changing, it's ever-growing. That's the terrain. So that's how we approach this concept in Godtear, and looking turn by turn, what is the advantage that you can do to block off followers? What is the advantage that you can do to grow the tiers back towards your deployment zone? So now you just get an auto plant. You just every turn you've got like a free plant of your banner back there, and you don't have to worry about getting stomped. What's the terrain that we can utilize to cluster in an area that we know the majority of champions are going to move for and try to dominate. And then if I know where the champions are moving, I can set up, if I have long range attacks, just to blast them from that perspective. So a lot of interesting built from the ground up ideas with Godtear. But the number one thing is the terrain is there. It is in the box. It plays both as traditional terrain and as something very different, something very unique.